Today we are bringing, in my opinion, the grand champion, the showstopper whenever it comes to any holiday table. You guys already know, if you've seen any of my videos or seen my plate, I am a lover of prime rib. And what's better than a prime rib is a prime rib roast. Big, luscious, delicious, perfectly marbled prime rib, and it's gonna really taste good with our Dijon-Herb rub, a mixture of Dijon, fresh herbs, and garlic for that nice, tangy, garlicky, herbaceous note. But you know, every steak deserves a side, and we're gonna bring it all home with our garlic sauteed mushrooms. Guaranteed to be a hit and welcomed at any holiday table. And you know what? It'll be at my holiday table this season as well. Before you start anything with the prime rib roast, you want to bring it up to room temperature. Let it sit out on the counter for about 30 to 40 minutes. That's going to ensure for a nice even cook on the inside and outside of the prime rib roast. But you also want to remember to pat the rib roast dry as well with the paper towel. Top, bottom, left, right. Get rid of all that extra moisture on the outside so you get that nice hard sear once we put it into the pan. All sides of the roast. All right, now ready to season. All right, so the very first thing you want to do when we jump into the prep for our prime rib is we want to heavily season it with salt and pepper, because salt and pepper is our friend. So we have our amazing, luscious, perfectly marbled Omaha Steaks prime rib, 4 pounds, so a lot of deliciousness right here. And again, we want to aggressively season it with salt and pepper on all sides. No side of the meat is left unattended, and we want to share all that love to the entire roast because it's a big piece of meat and we want to adequately season it. All right, so top, left, right, bottom, all over. All right, so we'll do our salt first. And a good rule of thumb when you're seasoning any meat is you want to actually season it a little more than you think it should be seasoned, because that's going to really get you where you want to be flavor-wise. All right. Salt, check. We want to follow behind, season aggressively with black pepper on all sides as well. Nothing too difficult here, just good old-fashioned cooking. And salt and pepper, whenever you're seasoning anything, salt and pepper is a must. All right. Nothing too difficult or hard to follow so far. And the great thing about this recipe is that it is a sensational quality cut of meat. And that is key whenever you're cooking, is to have quality ingredients. And that's why Omaha Steaks has you covered, because we got the best. All right, so that looks pretty good. We have a sufficient seasoning of salt and pepper all over the prime rib roast. And what we want to do next then is, since this is a Dijon-Herb rubbed prime rib, we want to make our rub. So I really love this rub because it has a lot of really good flavors going on with it. You got the garlic, you got the parsley, you got the thyme, you got the oregano. It's herbaceous, it's salty, it's garlicky. It's just really hitting and resonating on all flavor profiles. So first things first, we want to put a little bit of vegetable oil. All right. Next, we want to add some garlic. Something about fresh minced garlic in a roast just really drives me crazy, from the smell to the flavor. So minced garlic is a must. All right, minced garlic. Want to add a little bit of tang in there as well, so I love Dijon mustard. That's going to really add another depth and complexity to the flavor profile of that rub. All right, now our herbs. We want to have some Italian parsley, a little bit of thyme for that earthiness. All right, oregano, because oregano is delicious, really good as well. And rosemary. With rosemary, you get a real depth and flavor as well, and that nice little pepperiness, that peppery undertone you get from the rosemary. All right. To that, we add pepper, kosher salt, and a little bit of warm spice from the paprika. You get that nice warm spice flavor note as well as a little bit of smokiness from that. So when using paprika, I prefer to use smoked paprika. All right, so we have all of our ingredients in our bowl. What you do next then is grab your whisk and whisk away. Get everything nice and incorporated. If you need more oil, feel free to add that because we want this to be sort of a paste because we're gonna rub and massage and really lather down and apply this to our prime rib. So if you need more oil, feel free to add more. All right, so it really starts to come together. And this is what you're looking for as far as the consistency of the rub. All right, easy enough, nothing too difficult here. We're just cooking with good old-fashioned delicious flavors, aromatics, herbs, and that garlic is really gonna kind of set it over the top. But it all starts with quality ingredients. All right, so once we have our Dijon herb all together and nice and pasty looking, we wanna go ahead and apply this to our Omaha Steaks ribeye. All right, so very generously, we're going to rub down and just apply and smother and just really massage. Get in there. This is the part where it's fun. All of this rub to the rib roast because that's where a lot of the flavor is gonna come from. The herbaceousness, from the herbs, the oregano, the parsley, the nice garlicky notes from the fresh garlic, and just really get it in there. All right, while we're doing this, we wanna go ahead and preheat our oven to 250 degrees because it is a very large roast. And what we want to do is slowly but surely bring our roast up to temperature. That way we're not overcooking the steak. It's a nice even cook and you're gonna have that nice charred exterior and that perfectly edge to edge pink, which is indicative of a perfect steak. And it all starts here with the Omaha Steaks prime rib. All right, so I don't believe in waste. I'm gonna just use all of that. And it smells amazing. I'm smelling the garlic, I'm smelling the herbs. I get that nice little smoky note from the paprika. And very simple, delicious flavors. Ingredients you probably already have in your pantry and your fridge. All right. So once we have our rib roast nice and rubbed down, heavily salted, heavily peppered, and rubbed down with our Dijon herb rub, we want to have a scorching hot pan and we're going to sear off the exterior of the rib roast. So we want to get our pan nice and scorching hot because you want to ensure that nice crusty hard sear on the exterior of the prime rib. And that is one of the most important steps, I believe, in this recipe. By getting that nice hard sear on the outside of the prime rib roast, that's gonna serve as sort of a force field and an exterior to kind of keep the juices where they belong in the rib roast. And you guys already know me. I'm all about the prime rib, and essentially the prime rib is from the primal rib section of the cow. So it's just one big prime rib essentially, and I love it. It's delicious. It has the perfect, to me, perfect texture, perfect marbleization, fat to meat ratio. It literally melts in your mouth, and nothing screams the holidays, nothing screams celebration more than this prime rib right here. So it's very important to follow these simple and easy steps along the way, but make sure you get that nice hard sear on the steak, and that's gonna give you a perfect prime rib each and every single time. All right, so I have my pan heating up right now. And to this, I want to add our vegetable oil. It's very important to use the oil with a high smoking point because you're getting the pan screaming hot right now. And you don't want an oil that burns too easily because you'll get that bitter flavor in the rib roast. So you can use canola oil, vegetable oil, peanut, the sunflower seed oil, any of those right there have really, really good smoke points and not gonna give you that bitterness that you might find with the olive oil, which has a pretty low smoking point. So high smoking point oil is best to be used. All right, we got our pan heating up nice and hot. And as I've said it before, cooking is a multi-sensory experience. So you're using your smell, you're using your taste, and you're also using your hearing. So once our pan has sufficiently come up to a scorching, screaming high heat, we want to go ahead and put the prime rib roast into the pan. What we're doing right now is sealing in flavor and keeping the juice inside of the rib roast where it belongs. So when we're cooking, it is a multi-sensory experience. We're using sight, we're using smell, we're using taste, and right here we're gonna also use hearing. So if you put the ribeye into the pan, if my calculations serve me right, you'll have a nice, hard, screeching sound once you put in there, and that's gonna really give you a high quality ribeye roast. So I see the oil popping right now, so I think we're ready. So listen if you will. And that right there is what we're looking for. We're sealing in juices, we're sealing in flavors, and it all starts with this high quality Omaha Steaks Prime Rib Roast. All right, so you wanna get a nice hard sear on all sides of the ribeye. That way, I love a nice crusty exterior, a nice crusty char, a nice crusty crust on the outside of the rib roast, and this is a very important step to securing that nice char on our roast. Okay, all right, so you're gonna get that nice hard sear, about 2 to 3 minutes on each side. And what we're looking right now for is a nice browning, that nice Maillard effect with a caramelization and get nice and browned, because brown equals flavor. And let the ribeye roast do its thing. Take your time. You wanna let the flavors develop naturally and not rush things, because the proof will be in the pudding when we have that delicious, delectable, perfectly cooked, perfectly charred ribeye roast. Give the pan a little shake. And if you want to peek, go ahead, feel free to peek. All right, you see that right there? That's what we're looking for, that perfectly brown on there, has that nice crust, and that's flavor. So you want to get that exactly identical to that right there on all sides of the rib roast. So once we have sufficiently seared and got that nice char on all sides of our prime rib roast, see that? That's a thing of beauty. That's gonna keep all of that flavor inside of the rib roast. So what we have here is our roasting rack. You wanna have it a little bit elevated. So it has the air circulates around the roast, so that way, by having it on a flat surface, it might make it soggy or it might get rid of that sear. So we want to retain that sear on the roast, so that's very key by using our elevated rack right here and putting it into the oven. All right, so follow me if you will. We are going to head over to our preheated oven at 250. As I said before right now, the roast is not fully cooked to your desired temperature. So what you want to do is slowly but surely bring up that roast to your desired cooking doneness. So if you want to do it medium rare, you want to go ahead and bring it about 5 to 10 degrees lower than your desired temperature. So for rare, about 110, 115. For medium rare, you want to take it out around 110, 115, because the roast is going to continue to carry over cook once it rests. Resting is a very important step as well, which you will see in a second. That's going to allow the juices to just rest and just redistribute throughout the roast and keep it nice and flavorful and juicy, because if you cut too soon into the roast, all those juices, all that flavor that we worked so hard to keep into the roast is going to seep out. So roasting it, you want to always rest it, and you'll see exactly why when we take it out of the oven. So into our preheated 250 oven we go, in the center of the oven, and you let that cook. If you're not sure of the cooking temperature, Omaha Steaks, we always send you a great cooking chart, so it takes all of the guesswork out of the temperature you're trying to achieve. When in doubt, use a thermometer. Safe is always better than sorry, and by using a electric or a digital probe, you want to ensure that you have that perfect temperature all the time, and you want to insert it into the thickest, most center part of the roast. So you let that do its thing, and next we're gonna jump into our garlic butter sauteed mushrooms, because what's a roast without a side? And this side is truly exceptional. So let the roast do its thing. Next up, mushrooms. Getting excited. All right, so once we have cooked our roast to 10 degrees below our desired cooking temperature, we want to remove it from the oven. So let's get to that. A thing of beauty. As you can see, that nice hard sear that we started out with initially, where we had the Dijon rub on there with the Dijon mustard, the garlic, the thyme, the oregano, the rosemary, all that has sealed and adhered to the outside of the roast and created that amazing crust. So when you cut into it, when you slice into it, it's gonna have that nice hard sear that adheres to the outside of the steak, but it be nice and juicy and tender and flavorful with that edge-to-edge perfect pink doneness. So you let that rest for about 20 to 25 minutes. And what we're doing right now is allowing those juices and that flavor to redistribute. So that way when we slice into the roast, the juices stay inside of the roast where it belongs. So I'm gonna slide over here and we're gonna jump into our garlic sauteed buttered mushrooms. All right, so the very first thing we want to do to get our mushrooms started, nice hot pan, and we're going to add some olive oil to the pan. And allow that to come up to temp. Once that comes up to temp, get nice and hot, we're going to start adding our aromatics. So once we have the pan come to temperature, we're going to start adding our onion and garlic. That's going to give us a really good head start, nice jump start with building the flavor in our garlic sauteed mushrooms. And what is garlic sauteed mushrooms? Without garlic. You just get a nice light caramelization on the onions and the garlic so they're slightly translucent. About a good 30 to 45 seconds, because you want to remember the onion and the garlic is going to continue to cook after I add the mushrooms to the pan. All right, starting to look good, but most importantly, starting to smell good. Okay. Now, once that gets nice and translucent, we're going to add our lovely button mushrooms to the pan. Now, to remember, before you add the mushrooms into the pan, make sure there's adequate olive oil or oil in the pan, because the mushrooms are like little tiny sponges, and it's going to absorb all that liquid. Do a little saute. All right, pinch of salt. Kosher salt is preferred. Pinch of coarsely cracked black pepper. If you need to add more oil, feel free, but you want to have enough oil to get that nice saute on the mushrooms, and make sure the pan is big enough. Nice, flat, wide surface. That's going to allow yourself to get a nice sear, a nice caramelization on the outside of the mushrooms. And browning, as we already know, I've said it time and time before again, is flavor. Now you'll see as you cook the mushrooms, as it starts to brown, it will also reduce in volume, reduce in size. And what's happening right now is that flavor with the salt, with the pepper, with the onion, with the garlic is fortifying and concentrating in the mushrooms as they shrink down, as they reduce, as they develop flavor. And you know all about flavor. So as you can see now, we've sauteed our mushrooms down with the onion, with the garlic, pinch of salt, pinch of pepper. And if you can see right there, it's starting to shrink down, it's starting to reduce in size, but volumize in flavor and have a nice brown on there. Okay, so once that happens, what we want to do now is essentially create sort of a pan sauce right there inside of the pan. So I'm gonna add a little bit of chicken stock. It's gonna give it liquid to create that sauce and also give it a little bit of consistency and viscosity in the pan. So creating a sauce and creating flavor, creating deliciousness, and again, a nice savory note with that chicken stock that we have in there as well. What you wanna do is reduce that to about half. So again, you're allowing all that chicken stock to really fortify those mushrooms and just get extra yummy. So once that chicken stock has reduced by half and that mushroom has had a chance to absorb all that delicious savory chicken flavor, we're gonna go ahead and finish it off and add some nice richness and a sauce-like consistency to the pan. And the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna cut off our heat completely, and we are going to emulsify the sauce that we have in there. So what we're doing here is adding some cold unsalted butter. I always prefer using unsalted butter because you can always add salt to a dish, but you can't take salt out, and you can only achieve that by using the unsalted butter. So what we're doing right now, we're just allowing that carryover heat from the pan to allow the butter to melt and emulsify into that chicken stock and create a nice pan sauce. As that melts, I want to add a little bit of fresh chopped parsley in there for a nice bright greenness and freshness to it. And once the butter melts and the parsley gets nice and incorporated into our pan sauce and our mushrooms, that right there is a delicious garlic sauteed butter mushrooms that'll literally knock your socks off and be welcome at any kitchen table. Now, one thing left to do right now, let's slice our prime rib roast and let's make a platter. But more importantly, let's eat. All right. All right, we just put that on there, get a couple slices to get the party started, and also for presentation as well. All righty, looking good. And then we add our mushrooms on the side like so. And that right there, that screams holidays, that screams festivities, that screams flavor. And the mushrooms and the steak, that right there is surefire way to get any party or holiday gathering started. And it all starts with quality products. And this right here at the Omaha Steaks Prime Rib Roast, it is guaranteed to satisfy any hunger, big or small. So to this I say, bon appetit, and what else? Let's eat.